You can see the PAC unit, the lights on, it's receiving. All right, so we got the knob mounted just fine and everything is back together. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a fantastic day as always. In today's video, we're actually doing a continuation from a video that I just finished up. It was kind of an epic fail, but I won't go into too much detail there. I'll leave the link down below so you can check it out if you're interested. But we're continuing down the path of our audio upgrade in the 2017 Ram Sport. So I've been kind of toying around with a lot of different options and upgrades and ideas and whatnot. And so I had originally bought the PAC Amp Pro system to add RCA outputs for aftermarket amps to the stock Uconnect system in this truck. Wanted to add a subwoofer and do a big audio upgrade, and so I went this route. And in doing so, I said, you know what? The truck doesn't have Android Auto, all that stuff, so I'm going to upgrade to an aftermarket stereo completely, and I'll show you what I bought really quickly, and we won't go into too much detail. So I bought this Android head unit off of Amazon, installed it, went through all of this stuff because it came with some RCA pre-outs for subwoofers and amps and everything in it. It was a huge fail. I just finished transferring all of my AC controls back over to the stock unit here on the workbench, and we're fixing to install this back into the truck, install our PAC upgrade like we should have. So show you how we tore it all apart. I won't go into a lot of detail there. You can see that in the beginning of the other video if you want to see a full teardown of how to get this thing apart. I will show you really briefly what it takes to get the dash loose. It's not bad at all. But yeah, so we're going to install this instead, go back to the stock factory head unit, add on some amps, and go from there. So if you want to follow along with more stuff like this on the channel, I'd appreciate it if you hit subscribe, hit the thumbs up if you found it entertaining or helpful or picked up any tips or tricks out of this. You got any comments about that other unit, if you don't want to watch the other video, or about this thing, what we're doing here, leave them down below. I try to answer everybody's comments. I appreciate you guys being here, so let's jump into it and show you what we got. So really quickly, this thing's pretty straightforward. It comes with a knob on here that you can adjust, like so if you wanted to install an amp for your subwoofer and you wanted to have control, or your amp didn't come with a control volume knob on it or output knob, you can hook this right into the wiring on here and you can control that output. It shows you the different, if I get it the right way here, shows you the different outputs it's got. It's got your sub output, your rear and front, and you can even upgrade this with a digital output as well. Doesn't come with it stock, but you can upgrade that if you've got an amp with DSPs or something like that. You've got your expansion ports, harnesses, and all your switches, your bass knob, all that stuff. USB for upgrades and things. They do release firmware upgrades. I've already got this one all up to date, so we're good there. And then, of course, your main factory wiring harness that just plugs in line. So you take it out the back of the stock radio, plug this one in line, plug it back up to your radio, and that's about as easy as it's supposed to be. They give you really detailed instructions on everything too, so that's good. Tells you what all the switches are for, the inputs, the wiring, all that good stuff. So shouldn't be too bad. And then we'll have opportunity to hook up 3 different sets of outputs to this thing. Right now we're just concentrating on the sub output and to get this switch or this knob installed for the control so we can proceed with it. Now, obviously you don't have to have all of this out of the truck. This was just because I was ripping this thing back out to put this back in, so you can ignore all of that. And now we'll take a look inside the truck and show you what we're dealing with. So again, you really don't have to go quite so far in this step. Now you can ignore all of this. This is because we took that other aftermarket radio out. So this will all stay put, and all you really have to do is unplug your main big red vehicle wiring harness right here. All of this stuff is just because I swapped radios for the antenna, satellite radio, all that good stuff. So you just unplug this, plug the new wiring harness in line, and then hook it right back to the back of the radio, and then you can shove everything back in place. Now, I have the full console in here, so you have to, I think it's a T20 bit, a Torx bit to get this top piece out right here, and then it's there's 2 Phillips screws. I'll show you once I kind of get it back together so you can see it. But again, the whole teardown is in the beginning of that other video if you're interested in that. But it's just 2 Phillips screws, and then there's 1 Torx bit over here on the side in the cup holder, or not the cup holder, but that little cubby hole. And then there's a 7mm bolt in the bottom of the console, and then this thing just pops straight out. You can pull on the cover here and it pops straight out, and then you can have access to everything. So I'll get this thing put back together the way it's supposed to look now, and then I'll show you a little bit more in detail. All right, so we got the wiring completed, I believe so anyway. So what we've got going on is we've got a couple of different things here. We've got our main master wiring harness here, and because I've got the amplified Alpine unit in here, we connect the speaker wires straight to it. They include this other pigtail for other systems and non-amplified systems. We don't need that. And so then we've got our other main wiring harness that comes off of the master wiring harness over here to the PAC unit itself. We've got that plugged in. We've got our non-fading control knob plugged in here for our subwoofer output, and I've got it run underneath all of these wires in the console to our console down here, and I'll mount that once we kind of get all of this tested and put back together. I've got a 10-foot micro USB to regular USB-A connection. So what I wanted to do there was, in case I wanted to get in here, do any firmware updates or change any settings. There's a few settings in here I'll show you in a second. I didn't want to have to constantly try to take this thing back apart to get to it, to hook it up. So I put a USB cable to it, ran it underneath the dash and over here. So I'll tuck that up under the dash and out the way when I'm done. That way I can just unhook it, plug it into the laptop, make any changes I need to without tearing it all apart. There is a little wire that comes off of this for your amp turn-on lead. So I've got that hooked up to my amp wiring harness, and I've got my RCA outputs plugged in for my subwoofer output. Again, it's hard to see now, but you've got a front amp connection and a rear amp connection. So I still have 2 more options here as well, but I've got the RCAs plugged in, so we're ready for the next phase in this project. So everything's hooked up now. So what I've got to do is get the radio, the factory radios back over here again. Get the factory radio plugged back in with our master wiring harness, hook up our antennas, our USB, and our satellite radio, and our 3G connection, which no longer works, but that's okay. And then we get to start testing this out, make sure everything's working. Here's a quick look at the application on the laptop. So you can connect it to that USB cord like I was telling you about. Go in here, get the information off the unit, update the firmware, go into some of the options. You can set some of the different frequencies and Q factors here, turn the EQ enabled, on and off, door chime, stuff like that. Chime level and minimum volume level. So if yours is off a little bit, you can come in here and adjust that, program it back to the module, and then be good to go. I'm gonna leave all of mine alone, set to the defaults right now, and not mess with any of that, and then we'll just test it out and see how it goes. I have to go on to the next phase anyway, get my amp, get everything wired up and tested before I start kind of screwing around with some of these settings anyway. But here's a quick look at the software just plugged into the laptop and what you can adjust with it. And here's our radio put back in. The screws or bolts are back in, holding it in tight. All the wires are tucked away. You can see, let's see if I can get back there. You can see the PAC unit, AmpPRO 4 back there. The light's on, it's receiving. And so everything's kind of tucked in. I didn't mount it permanently. It does have some mounting tabs or holes on the side of it that you can maybe zip tie it somewhere out of the way. I just kind of tucked it right back against that back wall, wedged it in place. Hopefully it doesn't bounce or rattle around. The way the wiring is, you do have a decent amount of slack to kind of get this where you want it to. There is a lot going on back there with the main big wiring harness and whatnot, but overall you do have a little bit of room to work with to get this. I thought about mounting it on this metal plate right here, but then I thought it could bounce around and vibrate and cause some noise, and that would drive me crazy. So it's just tucked right back there in the corner, wedged up against the wall. So I think we'll be good to go there. And now I just got to put this center console cover back on with all the controls and everything. I tested it all. Everything's working just fine. And so just got to put it back together. And then lastly, I need to mount this fading adjustment knob in the console somewhere, kind of clean everything back up, and we'll be good to go. So we've got everything buttoned up and back together except for this console lid. We've got to run this wire for our fading output for our subwoofer amp. So they include this in the kit. You see they've got some washers and nuts on there, and so I'm trying to figure out where I wanted to put it. And I was looking at this console over here, and I thought about mounting it through the center of this and be able to grab right down there and adjust it. Pay no attention to those. I've got to put those back on my radio. That's from the other video. So I was trying to figure out where to put it in there, but then I didn't really want anything sticking out in here that might get caught on something or interfere. So I was looking back at this, and there's actually a little piece here that I'm not sure what this is for, access for, or maybe, you know, some of these trucks have a shifter here in the middle. Maybe it's to get to something like that to release underneath. I don't know. But anyway, my truck doesn't have anything over there. It's just this little blank knockout panel. So I think I'm going to measure. You can snap it right out and drill a little hole right in the side here, and I'll be able to mount this knob right through there. Should clear just fine from the top, and then that'll allow me to sit here and drive, and I can reach right there and adjust that knob to adjust the subwoofer amp and everything without having to, you know, mess around in here or drill holes in this other piece. So I think that's what we're going to do now. All right, so we got the knob mounted just fine. I chose to do it on this removable piece. That way, if you screw something up or it's not quite right, you don't have anything permanent. You could replace this if you needed to. So we just drilled a small hole through there, mounted it, got our washers and nuts mounted, snugged down tight, and then it just pops right back in. We can show you here. Oh, get the cord out the way. Just line it back up, snap it back in, and it's out the way. And then on the console over here, you can see that the cup holders and the bottom part is recessed way back from the front, and so there's plenty of clearance on this, so it's not in the way. We could snap it back down, plug our power outlet back up, and put it all back together, and we're done. And everything is back together, tightened up, finished up, tucked out of the way, nice and clean. I got to get these back installed on the trim piece again. That's from that other video and radio install, so don't mind that. And then here is your knob. So it's barely visible sitting up straight like normal from the driver's seat. There it is from the side. And so you can just reach right there and turn it up or down to adjust your amp or your non-fading output, so you can reach it really easy. It's not in the way. It's not going to hit your leg or be in the way or catch anything. I never use these map pockets or paper pockets or whatever's down there anyway, so that's not a problem. And yeah, so that's all finished up. So there we go, nice and neat, and everything's tucked back out the way and looks like factory again. And guys, with that, we're done with another project. It was super easy to get this installed. I already had things kind of ripped apart from my other radio video fail. I'll leave that down below if you're interested in watching that Android head unit replacement, if you want to follow along with stuff like that. But anyway, this went really smoothly. You can kind of tell these people, it's a little expensive, but the research and development and design that went into this is pretty top notch. They seem to have really good products. People give them great reviews and whatnot. So the AmpPRO 4 amplifier interface went in flawlessly, no problems. Of course, I haven't officially tested it yet. That's phase 2 of this project, is to go ahead and get the JL audio amp on the way so we can get it hooked up and ready to go. So ultimately we can hook up some new subwoofers in this truck. So if you want to follow along, please subscribe. I'd appreciate it hugely. Leave it a thumbs up if you found it entertaining or informative whatsoever. If you got any comments about this or anything else we're doing on the channel, leave them down below. I try to answer everybody's comments if I possibly can. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Another note about this, I don't think I said it earlier in the video. I started to get the sub-only unit that only had the one set of preamp outputs, or the RCA outputs, for just adding one amp just for a sub. It was about, I think, $180 or so. I'll leave the link down below. I bought all of this stuff from Crutchfield. They're great. They always have tremendous reviews. They're really good. You get points for buying stuff with them that you can turn into money and use it for discounts on future purchases. Excellent tech support, all that good stuff. But I went ahead and decided to go this route because it had the front and rear amp outputs included in this kit. It is pretty pricey. I think at the time it was around 330, 360, somewhere in there. Don't quote me. I'll leave the link down below. But I said, well, if I go to all this trouble just to add one amp to it for the subs, and then I do want to upgrade it down the road and later on, that now what am I going to do? I'm going to have to sell this piece and get another one. So I just went ahead, sprung for the one that had all the amp hookups on it. So it would be there and ready to go in the future if we so choose to. And so yeah, but anyway, long story short, it went in great. Everything's back together looking nice and clean. And so now we got to move on to the next step. So hang out with me if you want to for the next one, and I'll catch you later. Have a good one. All right, so we got the